Wheelers out there and skiers and everybody that loves the winter. It's a beautiful day. For everybody that hates winter, man, today sucks. I
Today's
don't know
not your
about you,
day.
DJ, but 6:30 in the morning, I was out there shoveling snow in the driveway, snow blower back and forth. It was crazy this morning. But you know what do you expect for a mayhem Monday, brother? You know what I'm saying?
Right? Perfect.
So
Perfect for it.
it is. It is. I think it's, well, you know, depending on who you are, right? But I think, and anyway, it's
Yeah.
mayhem. So
It
today's
is.
topic is going to be chosen live. Welcome to Sales Chatter. To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly. So I heard a little stutter in that intro, DJ, and I'm wondering if I know there was a little bit of an issue with Restream on Friday, but so
Yeah.
all right. Well, as long as we're live, I know it's for those of you watching, listening
It does
live.
say we're live. If you guys do see us, say hi
Yeah.
wherever you are watching us from, so we know we are actually live and not just
Well, I got a
talking to
little
each other.
live in the top left-hand corner, so I think we're live.
I think
But we do know it is a holiday in the U.S., so you know, let's dive right into it, DJ, because this is one of my favorite. I love Monday. Do you like Mondays?
I do like Mondays.
Yeah, I
I
love
like
Mondays.
Mondays because of this, because I never know what we're going to talk about, and so I kind of anticipating it, but like it always ends up going to kind of complete the or a good start to the week. It always is.
Yes.
Seems like the subject, whatever we end up on, just kind of is a resounding throughout the week. So I love it.
It is. You know what? You're right, because like it just kind of, you know what? It's kind of like when you think okay, I want to buy this type of vehicle, and then all of a sudden you start seeing it everywhere, kind of scenario, right? We talked about that last week.
Yeah.
But you know, it's that whole like allowing the conversation to take on a mind of its own and kind of create its own uniqueness.
Yeah.
To me, that's everything. I've never been this real scripted guy. I mean, you know, when it comes to sales calls and stuff, I know what I want to say. I typically start the same conversation the same way every time, but just because I know that's what brings out information. But scripting, like when I go on podcasts or when people come on our podcast, it's okay. Well, what are we talking about? Well, this is the this is the topic. Okay, what do you want me to say? And I'm like, I don't know, whatever you want to say. Like, I don't know, whatever you think about the topic.
We're not going to direct you like the mainstream
this ain't
media.
a movie.
Listen, we want you to say whatever you want to say. We're
Speaking of movies, have you seen the new
it.
Matrix?
I have not.
Do you like the Matrix series?
I do.
Okay. I love the Matrix series. Like, love it. Just the whole philosophy behind it and free yourself and did it right. Like, just I love it. I did not like the last one.
Really?
Like, I watched it on the weekend because
you liked all the other ones leading up to it.
Love them. I mean, there's certain parts of every movie that I think, you know, is like, okay, they could have done without that, but I guess it needed to be for the story. But this one just, wasn't I'm not a fan. Not a fan, brother. Not a fan. Okay. Not a fan. I don't know why. I mean, you know, it was like I watched it on the home premiere. You know, I get my popcorn, I got my my red velvet cupcake, and I kind of sat there, you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, yeah. But I just wasn't happy about it. Morning, Jeff.
Oh man, morning, Jeff.
Morning, Ryan. We just got power back after 2 hours. Couldn't wait to tune in. Oh yeah, well, Ryan. Actually, yeah, Ryan's in that area that got hit pretty good too.
Ryan, I hope you guys are good up there. Good morning. Glad you were able to tune in.
Dan is happy he has snow. You're absolutely right. We were just saying that.
Listen, I'm going to give you guys a little peek into the backstage before we go live. He is so ready to hop out of that chair and get out in that snow. And
Yep. And you know what? It's funny because yesterday, so for anyone that snowmobiles, you'll understand toe in and toe out. So your skis have to be like a 1/4 inch this way or this way. Right. Like, So yesterday something said to me, you know, just check it out. Anyways, one ski was cockeyed. It was like 1.25 inches out. So I've obviously hit something. And you know what? So I take my steering rod off and I take the ball joint out. I cannot find one anywhere. And I'm freaking out right now because the sled was ready to go. And now I cannot find one anywhere. And it's bent. So I can't ride with it. Like, it'll mess up the steering. So when we hang up, I'm calling like 4 or 5 other people. I've got about 75 follow-ups to do. I've got an 11 o'clock meeting. And then after my 11 o'clock meeting to talk to a company about Inception, I am gone. Like
Yeah.
I'm driving around finding, I will drive. I don't care where I have to drive. If I have to drive 3 hours north, I will find a Skidoo dealer that's got the pieces I need, because as
And
soon as
just as
those,
much as you're wanting to get in that car and go try, I'm ready to. Somebody, whoever's heading, any truckers watching us today that are heading down to Florida, come pick me up in Ohio on the way. I don't like this stuff.
dude, there'll be a ton of people picking you up. Like, if you're gonna go, man, for sure. There's actually, we were thinking about a second dog.
Yeah.
Um, and last week, Christine was looking online, and there's a guy out in Winnipeg that drives truck across Canada for a living, and for $200, he'll deliver the dog to you in the semi.
That's smart.
It's pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
That's
But
smart
okay,
idea.
yeah.
Right.
So listen, we've been babbling here for 6 minutes
Yeah,
and
we
four,
got
five,
six
six
minutes.
seconds. So Monday Mayhem. What are we going to talk about today, DJ? You ready?
Let's see it. I'm gonna wait. No, no, no! Right there, right there.
Oh, reverse engineered logistics.
Yes.
Driver centric sale. Build a bulletproof supplier relationships, increase communication, decrease service errors, put your best foot forward. So reverse engineered logistics was I'll kind of give you the scoop on it, because just for everybody watching or listening. So this was a strategy I came up with um, probably about 7 years ago. And what it was how do I do more with less, which was really the core nucleus of it, DJ. It was like, okay, at one point I had so many operations people. I felt I was, like in most companies, a lot of times, like our operation budget is so high. And it was like, how do I do more with less? So reverse engineered logistics, the nucleus of it is this: pick 5 to 10 suppliers that you love, that are totally in tune with your image, credibility, and brand. Like, they have the same values, the same morals, the same ethics. They care about the customers. They put people before profits, all that good stuff. Right. And it brings me to Damon, the guys at
Yep.
American and the guys at Centurion. This is what they're all
Yes.
about. And
Yep.
you sit down with them. You say, where are you looking for business? What are you looking for? You go through everything. And especially in today's environment, like where capacity's tight and rates are doing this across the board.
Mhm.
I found I did this in 2017, and just like it was before ELD and all that. And it was awesome, because when ELD hit, my cost of operation went up 3%, like 3% across the board, DJ. There was no massive, like the one that really did screw me was California, only
Mhm.
because it was so sporadic. Like, it'd be one this week, and then one 3 weeks from now, and then one 2 weeks from now, and then one a week. Like, there was no consistency. But any freight I had consistency with, I reverse engineered it, and I started with the suppliers. And this philosophy is the philosophy that I share with every brand new sales rep. Like, every brand new sales rep, I say, go to your manager, go to go whoever controls data in the company, and ask them, who are our top 5 suppliers that do the best job for our company? Go to different departments. Like, I know you were at a few major companies and a few smaller
Yeah.
ones.
Yes,
The
sir.
companies I've
Yep.
always been at, we've had our own dispatch department, where
Mhm.
like a salesperson gets to a certain number, and then they get their own dispatcher,
Gotcha.
and you work as a team, and then you build, and then they put more people in. Whereas some of them have the central dispatch, right?
Yep.
But whichever one it is, central or you individual, like, find the suppliers that treat their customers like gold. Find the suppliers that work within your philosophy in this industry, and
Yep.
then you sell that. And that is what
Yep.
I coined reverse engineer logistics, mainly because you don't have to worry about capacity. Like, think about it, DJ, right?
Yeah.
This was my philosophy: is how many sales calls get lost in between the rate period? Okay, well, get me a rate, get me some numbers on these. Okay, no problem. So then
Yep.
you get the numbers, then you come back, and then a week later you still can't get a hold of them, because they're off. It's going zero dark 30 on you, or they're this, and then they're on vacation, and then there's a fire, so they have to put out the fire, and then 3 weeks
Yep.
later you get back a hold of them, and they're like, yeah, who are you again? You're like, well, we gave you rates. Oh yeah, send them over again, and then you repeat the process over. Whereas
Yep.
I said, if I understand my capacity, if I understand my rate, if I understand when I'm delivering, where I'm delivering, how long I've been been delivering there, how long it takes to unload. Like these are all questions for me where I would
Yep.
go into a shipper and I'd say, okay, I'm delivering 23 miles away. My average delivery time is about 45 minutes. We are getting there every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 a.m. Where I'm looking to go is here, 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 and here. And they would
Yep.
say, no, I don't do it. And I'd say, thank you very much. Have a great day. Now,
That's
some
it.
people say, but Dan, they have other freight. Why wouldn't you go after that? Because if it's not in my 5 to 10 carrier wheelhouse, I'm not interested at this point. And
Well,
that
and
was
and
my
and then
philosophy.
also to go even deeper, you're chasing freight. Then you
Yes.
guys are chasing freight. You're
Hmm.
not staying. You're not keeping those blinders on that we talked about. You
Yeah.
know, with
Yeah.
with this strategy. I mean, this strategy is huge because this is not taught anywhere. It's not.
No.
You know,
No, it was just something
it's
that I
just
kind of just
dollar
said,
for dollars. Just keep cold calling until you and just ask if they have freight and
mhm.
give them the lowest price and see what
Yeah.
happens. And it's
Well, and the way I kind of mentally positioned this, right, was if I get on the phone with you, DJ, right, and you're a logistics manager,
yeah,
and I know my exact rate, I know my dates, I know my times, I know my delivery schedule, I know everything. There's no guessing. I can sit on the phone, the first call with you, and probably jump to like third base, almost home plate with my baseball diamond strategy because I could say, okay, DJ, here's what I focus on. Like, here's my main customer profile question, whatever it is. And you're like, okay, I'm in. Okay, where do this is where I'm looking. I do that lane. Okay, perfect. My rate's $1,500.
yeah,
And you can go, $1,500. Holy crap. Like I'm paying 1,000 right now.
yeah,
Okay, the conversation's over. Like
yeah,
I'm not going back, getting a rate, coming back to you, trying to negotiate. And listen, I understand it's, out of the 3 weeks, it's what, 15 minutes of your time, but you do
yeah.
that times 100,
Yeah,
right?
it adds up.
It's a
It's a lot of
lot of
wasted
time,
time.
a lot
It's
of
a lot of
wasted time.
wasted.
So I'd rather, you know, for lack of a better term, 8 mile the entire first conversation,
Yeah,
get it all out. This is what I'm looking for. This is what we have. This is when we're delivering. And not only that, one thing that was really key when I would sell like this was prospects were like, shit, you really got it down pat. Cause it was like, okay, we're delivering at, ABC Corporation 23 miles away. Right. And what I would do is in my sales folders, I would put delivering here, like based on the conversations with the supplier, I'd put
yeah,
delivering here. And so like I'd look up the company once, just where they are geographically, because
yep,
I don't know if they're even doing my lane. So I'd very little time for me
yeah.
anyways. My philosophy is very little time on the upfront.
Yep.
You want when
Do the
there's
research
interest,
when you're. Yeah,
I will spend hours researching your company so I know what I'm talking about, right?
yeah,
Like I got a call on the 19th on Wednesday, and because it's 17th already, I got a call on the
yeah,
19th with a massive corporation for like one of the largest deals. Well, I guarantee you I'm learning from my deal 2 years ago that I walked in and thought I knew what I was, right? Like I'm
yep.
spending hours doing the research, going through this because there's a big interest. But before that, I honestly think it's a waste of time. And some
Agree.
people might
I agree.
disagree with me because, people are like, well, research the company. Like, don't go to a steel company or like that makes steel pipe and think they're loading in a dry van. Like that's just obvious. Like when it comes to equipment, but for me, it was all along the lines of like, if there's interest, and that was the key piece for me is if there's interest here, how do I move my timeline like 5 times faster than anything else?
Yeah.
And it's having all of that, in my opinion, it's having all of that information.
Well, reverse engineering of the logistics guys, and yep, Jeff is right. I mean, it is the way to go. It's definitely the way to. I mean, it's going to be the differentiator, guys. If you there's not a lot of other companies, a lot of other agents out there, and Jeff's right there too. I mean, he created, and we shared this one of the first few shows, but just created it, and you guys, if you didn't do this, and if you didn't get this, I'm sure I think we have something similar, but to it, but. We can share it. It's just questions that you should be asking your customers, but even better should be asking your suppliers like Dan's talking about. So start it from your suppliers, find out who your suppliers are, and then ask the questions that they need. But then with what Jeff's talking about is questions about what's the facility like? What, different things like that. Is there a bathroom? Is there, you know, we've seen
That's
such
the
crazy.
driver centric part of it. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Hmm.
Yep,
Hmm.
exactly.
Especially now, like a couple of years ago, I would say I never really came across a company that didn't allow drivers to use the bathroom. Like I mean, some pharmaceutical ones that I dealt with, like in San Leandro and stuff. But what they did is they had a separate area for the
Mhm.
drivers to go. It's just the drivers had to get out and go around. But once the drivers got in there a few times, they understood
They
where to
knew.
go,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Like, and that was more from a quality control perspective, right? Because
Correct.
the obviously the place is being so like airtight, dust free, blah 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 blah, because
Yeah,
it's pharmaceuticals, right?
yeah,
Um, but I think, especially with all the restrictions and companies pulling back on that, the driver centric is
yeah,
key, and that's
absolutely.
and on the reverse engineered logistics philosophy, that starts with your supplier. Like,
Yep.
what are you looking for your drivers? Because listen, there's some drivers that would be much happier with like a driver's lounge. And other drivers are like, I'm good. Just tell me where to go and I'll sit in my truck for 5 hours. And I don't need, they put on their movies or they just listen to music or whatever.
That'd be the
And they
thing.
just
Yeah,
downtime. Right. And there's other drivers that are like, no, I want to get out of my truck. I want to stretch. I want to go for a walk. Is there a lounge? Is there somewhere I go? Is there a cafeteria? So everybody's got different variants of what they're interested in. I know when I was on the road for a bit, for me, it was like, if you preferably south, like in the south in the summertime, it's like, is there anywhere I can just go for a walk for an hour? Because in the truck for hours on end. And I mean,
yeah,
listen,
yeah.
you get up, when I wasn't driving, I'd get
Oh
up and go into
man,
the
yeah,
back, but it's you're for me, I'm like confined. So it was like the second I could, I didn't care about a driver's lounge. I didn't care about anything. I cared about, can I leave the truck here and go for a walk?
yeah,
Right. That's what I cared about. And it was, um, so each has their own, and that
absolutely.
facility profile will actually be in tune with the drivers that you want, because you're starting with the supplier and
Yeah,
starting with the drivers. And if it doesn't quite match, at least you can go back to your supplier, your partner, and say, okay, listen,
yeah,
like
yeah. This
Ryan
is
says, where
yeah, this is what
you
we
must
got.
look for the continuous moves as it keeps. Or, Ryan, I'll give you another strategy there as well, Ryan. Not necessarily continuous, but what if you hit 5 or 6 companies in that area? So if you hit 5 or 6 companies, each ship once a week, there's your continuous moves out of the same area. So, my opinion, anyways, I was always careful about how many loads. Okay, I do 1 load a week. I'm not interested. Well, I can make 5 more sales calls the exact same way in that vicinity, and
Exactly.
now all of a sudden you've put together a pretty good lane. But
Yeah,
for me, it was always, okay, what are your drivers looking for? Like if, because part of the strategy for reverse engineered logistics was always, how do you keep drivers? And this was done well before COVID, well before driver wages and all that kind of stuff. It was,
yeah,
how do we get the same guys going in and out all, like,
exactly.
every
Yeah,
week? And
yeah,
if we can do that, and a big part of this, like a really big part of this, was when I would have the conversations, I would stress with the supplier, how long have you had the customers that bring you to that area? Because what I did find, and here's something that, like, I lived it. So I want everyone listening, if you're trying to adopt this strategy, um, I would say, where are you looking for freight? And when I first started, they'd say, okay, Nashville, Tennessee. I'm like, okay, perfect. How many times a week? 4 times a week. Well, when? Like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday,
yeah,
Thursday. Like, so that, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Okay. And then, like, within 2 weeks, they're like, I don't have freight going there. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, it was load link freight, or it was load board freight that got me there.
yeah,
And I realized, like, because you're going in, you're selling this supplier, right?
yeah.
And I realized, okay, there's a gap in my questioning, my Q&A with the supplier, right? So it was, um for me, it was more of, okay, so is this one customer, is it 2 customers? And
Yeah,
this is why I say you pick the top 5 to 10 suppliers
yeah,
that your company or that you love, because you got to ask some questions, right? And in all fairness, if you're gonna set this up long term, and again, me, DJ, I'm all about turnkey. Like, if I could set an
absolutely.
account up and I turnkey it and everybody understands what
Yeah,
happened, and I can
yeah,
run
all pieces in place.
multi-million-dollar account with one person instead of 3, like, I'm saving 120 grand a year on salaries,
Yeah,
140 grand a year on salaries. And you do that times 5,
You know,
You know what I mean? Now you think about
now
that for a
you're making
second.
up
Like
the
you
money.
think how this can compound, and you're helping build that supplier,
Yeah,
right? Like,
exactly.
and some people have said to me, because I've had conversations about this exact topic over the last 3 weeks, because a lot of people in the US are like, well, I'm trying to dedicate business to somebody, but they just don't seem to want it, and this and that. And it's because, in my opinion, anyways, like it's the thought process is, oh, well, now that capacity is tight, you want to dedicate, right? Like we go back and we have to think about what a lot of asset based companies think of brokers, right? And if you're just going to any
Yep,
carrier, any asset based company, they've been screwed over before. And
exactly.
and is it because it's capacity? You're all of a sudden, ooh, I'm looking for capacity, and as soon as things get better, you're going to go back to the cheapest people, right? This is why it's, what are the top 5 to 10 carriers that we deal with, that we give
Yep.
a lot of business to, that this is very important. It can't just be call somebody off the load link because they're in that area today. Like it just doesn't work like that, right?
Exactly. Exactly. No, and it just goes back to our core. It goes back to the core of
Hmm.
the relationship, guys. I mean, this is you know this is taking what we kind of are telling you guys here every day on the show, and it's 8 miling that. It's all about the relationship. If you're instead of chasing freight, you're working with the carriers, working with the suppliers that you're regularly working with, and trying to help them keep their truck moving, like Jeff had mentioned. Then it's a win-win, and they're usually willing to even give you maybe better rates than if they're calling off of a spot freight or something like that. So it's and depending on how regularly it is and how good it fits in continuing to keep their truck moving. So
Hmm.
but in the end, you're not going to know that unless you talk to these people, unless you
Yeah.
ask.
Again, and again, I want to stress, just because I know sales reps can get a little short sighted, and I say that with all due respect. There's a lot of sales reps that I talk to continuously, and I say, like, "What's your ideal business?" And they're like, when we're developing customer profiles and stuff, well, I want a customer that ships 15 times a week, and I'm like, okay, but if that's all you're looking for, then you're losing, and you're losing
Yeah,
hard. So when we talk about continuous business, please know it doesn't have to be one customer. It could be
no,
5 or 10 customers in that same area that creates that continuous business. And
yep,
it's the first fallacy that I try my hardest to shatter with sales reps, is like, if you're just looking for the companies to do 15, 20 loads a week, like, don't get me wrong, those are great companies, right? If it's
of course,
scheduled, and especially if it's dedicated, you come in on, and I had a lot of them. You come in on Monday morning, you send 35 load sheets
yep,
out, your entire week, all your expenses are paid for the month in the first week
yep,
on Monday morning. It's a good feeling. Don't get me wrong. But to have that as your profile and just what you go after, like, carriers love
yeah,
continuous freight, but it doesn't have to be from the same dock. As long
yeah,
as, like, one dock's not just a total, like, shithole, and they get treated like crap, and they,
exactly.
again, invariance, right? But if you find a customer that does 2 loads a week, and you find another one down the road that does 2 loads a week, there's your 4 loads a week. There's pretty good consistency for a supplier that's got 4 trucks coming in there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
exactly. And, well,
yeah.
and you hit it on the head there too. With so that's where the facility profile and being the driver centric and really finding out what the facility has for the drivers is going to. I mean, look, if facility doesn't get if you have facility A, facility B, they're in the same area. But facility A really is driver centric, all about the drivers. They got a driver lounge. They have all of these things. We might be willing to take a little bit less or be a lower on a rate than if it's the driver has to sit and he's gonna have to sit in this truck and he's stuck there until they're done and who knows and all of these things. Yeah, the rate's probably gonna be different.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's where
100%. And
asking
you know
more
what the
questions
beautiful
and
thing is you even take that business to start,
yeah,
and you try and find better business. Like,
yeah,
that was step 2. So step 1 was, where do you need business? Like, where are you kind of sporadic getting home or going to? And then
that
the second
works.
part
Well,
was, which customers do you want to replace? And I think,
that's it.
and some people might say, holy shit, Dan, are you serious? But I think, as a salesperson, we have to sanitize our customers and we have to
Agreed.
sanitize our pipeline. As we grow, as we look to serve more people, as we look to change how we serve, as years go by, some customers don't fit in. And I'm
Sure.
sure you've been there, DJ.
Yeah.
You have a
Oh yeah.
customer, he leaves, a new person comes in. Like Greg's
Yeah.
been on the show many times. When Greg was at Nature's Way, it's like we had a solid relationship. Things were happening. He left because he
Pleasure.
had a opportunity to better his career.
Hmm.
It wasn't anything ill, but he had an opportunity to better his career. The person who took over, it was a different relationship.
Yeah.
It became a different customer. Like it's not just, we lose the customer because of the supplier. It's like our customers go somewhere and somebody's replaced and then the dynamics change, right? So I
Exactly.
think as a sales rep, we have to understand that this happens. And in order to maintain our business levels, I feel we need to sanitize a lot. We need to consistently say, okay, where I'm going, like where I want to be in 5 years, which
Yes.
customers,
I'm glad you
you know,
went there. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, like which customers, ideally, if the individuals stay, are
Yeah.
going to be here in 5 years, or which ones do I need to look to
Which ones do
replace?
you, which ones do you want to be there in 5 years? I mean, ask
Yes,
yourself
thank you.
that
Even
really.
better question. Better
Yeah. Which
question,
ones do
DJ.
you want to be there? Because
Hmm.
uh, what you'll realize, especially anybody new to this industry, new to sales, you'll realize when you really focus on what Dan teaches in Inception and teaches about customer profile, that even changes as you
100%.
go through your journey and your career and your progression, and you really learn this industry and just sales. You're like, okay, I'm not dealing with that anymore. But
Hmm.
in the beginning, you were like, oh yeah, I want that, and I want that, and I want this and this and this. But then you start to, that's a lot of headaches. I don't want that
Hmm.
anymore.
Hmm.
And you
And
just
you know what
start to
I've found
really,
is when new people come in and we talk about the customer profile,
yeah,
um,
yeah, yeah.
probably 98% of the time they don't follow it. And it's just it's it's like anything, right? We talked about this about golf uh lessons. We talk about it like for everything. It's that really understanding what you like. Sometimes you have to go through it.
Yeah, yeah,
As we look at like our lives growing up, right? And I guess it's all you can compare it to is growing up because you grow
right,
up in this industry. Like
yeah,
you look at so many people. I mean, our inner circle, you look at us in our inner circle and
yeah.
you ask anyone in there, A to B, like A being, when you first started, to B, where are you, like where are you at? And
Uh,
your needs and wants are totally different.
totally different.
Totally different. Like, but it's pretty cool how it, like, and again, I've
It is
only ever
it's a
lived
crazy
this industry.
transition.
It
It's a crazy
is.
transition. It really
Well,
is.
you've been in many industries. So let me ask you this question because I've only ever been in this one and you've been in
Yeah.
sales in many.
Mhm.
Is Do you find your needs, wants, and desires from a sales perspective, from the type of customer perspective you have in other industries, is it pretty flatlined or is it as dynamic as it is in logistics?
That's a great question, and I never really, being just really kind of focused on the logistics part. Well, doing the retail, yeah, it is. It is.
Because like
I will.
retail,
I
they
will say.
come, they
I will
go.
say. Once you get to a certain point and a certain, yeah, you are kind of. Yeah, my customers all line. No matter what channel it is, whether it's retail, whether it's logistics, it's all for me personally. It's that I think we're at the same point though too. I think that's why we do so well with this. It's if we're not able to have fun and be us and just do those things. Uh, you know, the money
Okay, so
really
let me
isn't
let me follow this
the
up with
money or
another
the
question, DJ,
opportunity
because you
isn't the exciting part. It's more the relationship or the that connection, that
okay,
meeting.
okay,
You see what
I
I'm
get
saying?
that. Now, let me ask you this because I think this is even more important. I think this is going to be the aha moment for everyone
Yeah, yeah,
here.
yeah.
When did that change for you?
Whew.
Right?
So
Like, think about it. When you first started in retail, it was like anyone
yes,
that walks through the door,
yes.
you're like,
Anybody,
whoosh, right? But
anybody.
when did that shift? And when you got
So
into logistics, when did
I
that shift?
so I will tell you, it was probably logistics. Honestly, that shifted it. When you don't have retail, obviously you're in person. And now with this, we're at least in person. It's better than us just talking on the phone. But I was up until getting into this industry at all. I loved being in person. Obviously, I probably my smile helps, and that's why I liked being in
You
person.
do
But
continuously smile.
yeah,
Like
and so
every time you smile, you actually remind me of that guy in Something About Mary where he gets
I
called Chicklets. I love it because you're always smiling. I love it. Like, you know
listen,
what, brother, don't ever change because that's friggin' awesome.
and I'll tell you, it's something that I got called out on so much. I mean, I would be up. It's really is. I don't know. Maybe there's if there's any doctors watching this, maybe there's something they can say that it is. But I even pitching when you're supposed to be, and I was in the moment. I wasn't. I guess I was having fun, but even being up there as a pitcher, I'm smiling, and these batters are pissed off. Like, why is this dude smiling right now? So it's just
You got smile-itis.
that's it. That's it. That's it.
That
But
is
anyway, so
awesome.
being over
So
the
so
phone, yeah, it
oh,
was the when you're just talking on the phone and not that personal touch, I started to realize, okay, I didn't like certain things of certain people. And so just started to cut and cut and cut. And I'm like, okay, why didn't I do this before? And
mm,
and that was when it really started to then it was like then you really start to love what you do.
mhm.
When you don't have that, oh God, here's this. It was the phone call thing. I think that was the aha. It was oh man, that number. I know who that is. Shit, I don't want to answer that. And once you have that, enough times you're like, okay, why did I even do this? Why did I sell to that person? Why did I make them my partner? Because in the end, when you're making a sale, you got to think of it, especially depending on how good you are and really how truthful you are in what you do. If you really are selling a product, selling a service that is actually helping people, and not just selling it because you sell this and you get this. Uh, it's it changes a lot of things. It changes a lot of
Mm.
things. And once I started to really focus on that, and yeah, yeah, it all changed.
Do you ever slip?
If you get into hard, obviously, I think it's a natural habit, man. It's human instinct. You got to think of it. We're created so we've as humans we've been around for a long time, so we have natural things inside of us, and one is fight or flight. And I think when you have that kick in sometimes, so maybe lose a big customer, and now you're like, oh shit, or something happens
So
like
can
that,
I
and you
ask you
start
a
to go into
question about
panic.
that?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
apologize for cutting you off. I
No,
think
no,
this
go ahead.
this is going to be something that's really going to help.
I think. Yeah.
When you so twofold, right? So one, yes, I think everyone slips. We have our
Yeah.
ideal clients and when we try and stick to it, but I think at some point in time we slip because I can remember quite vividly my number one like operations person coming in the office going, why are we dealing with this customer? And I go, because da da da. And she says, like, it's so not your customer profile. Like, what's going on? And I kind of stopped and I went, shit, you're right. But there's that one. Number two is something that you just said where you said lose a big customer.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
People do.
see it as a salesperson, if we do not have a full pipeline, if we do not have consistency, if we are not putting our full effort in
Yeah.
and we lose a customer, it hurts a lot more because now you got realistically 3 months to build a pipeline back up.
Yeah.
Like realistically, especially in today's day and age, you're talking 90 days. Like when prospects are saying, I can't be wrong. Like I have to pick somebody that's right for the long term of my company. That's not done in 2 phone calls, right? So if you're so did and again, you've been in it. So when your
Oh yeah.
pipeline wasn't full, is it scarier than when your pipeline's full and
Oh,
you lose a customer?
absolutely, absolutely, and that's why you got to always be filling the pipeline. I mean, you have to
But it's
always.
tough. Like call a spade a spade. It's tough.
It's tough.
As
Oh,
a
it's absolutely
salesperson
tough.
to
It's
consistently
super
sell
tough.
every day when we got
Especially if you are one, and if you're really being picky about your customer profile, it's even tougher because you're going to weed through a lot. You're going to, that's I think this topic, if anybody didn't catch that, Dan said, if he says 1,500, that guy says 1,000, that's it, it's done. And the reason he's saying that is not he's not being a dick, and it's well, that's way too low, screw this guy. It's you're just too far off.
Mhm,
There's going to be somebody else out there that you are just gonna boop, and
mhm,
it's perfect.
mhm,
Find that. Don't force it. Sometimes forcing it is way worse than just being happy.
Well, I
Shit.
think
I
forcing
mean,
it in the end, we lose even more. Like we lose more
always,
time,
oh,
more life vitality, more energy, more joy,
always,
more excitement. We lose it all because I, I think we've all been there where you, again, we say this a lot, but you go into the day going, oh my God, like today's awesome today. And then you get a call from that customer that you
yeah,
never, you know, is not necessarily your ideal customer, but it's like, well, I'll take his freight because I'm making money on it. That completely destroys your day.
yeah,
And now your productivity is gone because of that. Now, again, if you reverse engineer the entire process and you start with the supplier instead, because again, this is where the idea
yep,
of reverse engineer came from, is we always start with the prospect, and then it's like, okay, and then you find the prospect, they say, here's your opportunity, go get this load, and you're like, oh my God, now I need a carrier. Well, reverse that,
yep.
right? And when you reverse that, your supplier says, this is the ideal client for me. Now you stack your ideal client profile. Hopefully, both of them mesh. Now you've got the golden formula to go
Well,
in,
and
Mr.
I'm
Prospect.
I'm
Bang,
glad
bang,
you
bang,
said that.
bang.
So if your carrier's customer profile doesn't match yours, are you keeping that? Are you?
See, that's a good question. That would be where I would look at a variance, and
Yeah,
not to get too technical, but I always looked at, and I kind of, and we'll probably have to do a show on this because it's a lot, and I know we're already,
yeah, we're a
over
little bit
time,
over.
but what I did is I did a percentage. So I everything was
Okay.
1 to 10,
Yep.
and I had a list of
Yep. Yep.
14 different things that I looked at. Some of which was based on phone calls, some of which is what I looked at after, and I had a variance, and it was
Okay.
80% or up. Below 80%, I walked away from the opportunity because I wasn't interested. Now,
Well,
again, I was, 20 years into my career. I wasn't just starting out, and I didn't have pressure from brass on my shoulders or anything. So I
yeah.
was able to do that. I had a big book of business. I kept my pipeline full. So there was
Yeah.
variables that maybe some sales reps don't. I mean, did
Absolutely.
I screw off? Did I
Absolutely.
take, like, February for me is snowmobile month, like month. Literally, I will move meetings. I will cancel stuff. If like for
Yeah.
me, when it
This
came to
is this is your
snowmobiling, like even in my younger days, like
this
my
is your
birthday's in December, my mom's birthday's in December. And mom, I love you to death, but my mom knows if there was snow, it'd be like, I'll see you later. And I don't mean to be an asshole. It's just there's like
yeah.
6 to 9 weeks
Yeah. You only have so
of a
much. Yeah. You got a
sport.
window. The
Well, I
the
got a
woo,
window
right?
of a sport
The
that I
woo.
love,
The
and not
woo.
to mention invest a fucking small fortune into. Like, I'm going to take advantage of it. So February for me is that month, right? February for me is like, okay, I'm
Yeah.
off on a week. I'm riding up north. We'll all be doing it from my cell phone and from my car, like you were last month. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I'll be doing it from my
Yeah.
hotel room, or I'll be doing it from the side of a trail for 20 minutes, or I'll jump in and out, or like, it's just what it is. February
Yeah.
is my month because as soon as March comes, the season's almost over, unless you want to travel 5-6 hours north every weekend. And
Mhm.
as it gets into April. So for me, it was like, there was always these periods, right? In the
Yeah.
summertime, I had specific months that I would go golfing with customers, and I do my traveling, and I do my, everybody down south I'd go see in the winter, like kind of, November, December, kind of beginning of December, and
Yeah.
then into March and April. And then in the summertime, it'd be all the Southern Ontario and West Coast and all that kind of stuff north that I would go see. So I had these schedules, like, I mean, a lot of times we talk about your yearly schedule, and I had
Mhm.
times specific to going to see customers in this region. So I knew for 3 weeks out
Yeah.
of, August, I would be out west visiting customers. And so I would schedule that before the year even started, right? And I know we're getting way off
Yeah.
topic, and you know what? Let's just call it a day, DJ,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
think I love that reverse engineer. Just I think it's given a lot of different driver centric sell as opposed to just
Exactly.
sell.
Exactly.
Um, if
Yep.
Stephen Covey always said you start with the end in mind, and that was really the key thing that got me thinking, like, what would happen? And the results that I got from starting with a supplier, like knowing my numbers, knowing the times of pickups, knowing how many hours my driver has left, like these
Yes.
are like, you can almost answer any question a prospect throws at you. And not only that, the qualification at the end of the first call, like the first
Yes. Yeah.
communication, was
Exactly.
insane because it was literally like there's no back and forth.
No.
And to
Well,
me, that's
and to
critical.
that other person on the line, to that shipper, you sound like the absolute professional.
Well,
You
you know
you
what you're talking
you know
about.
what
Like
you're
you have
talking about.
everything
Knowledge is
done.
power. I mean, it's
And they can make the decision at that point too. Do I want to work with this Yahoo?
yeah, yeah,
Right? Like, do I want to work
exactly.
with this guy or
Yeah,
not?
do I? Yeah,
And I just think personally, if you're looking to not waste time, that's how you do it. Like you have all of your ducks in a row, you know what it is. And I don't know,
yeah,
personally, especially in today's day and age, it's like you know, you go, you have a conversation, it's a great conversation, and you go, you find some rates, you get some rates, or your operation teams get some rates, you go back, they say no. You go have another conversation, you
yeah,
go back, you say no. You go, you know, and by the end of the week, your ops team has gotten you 15 different rates for 15
yeah.
different customers. All of them said no. It creates frustration because it's all this work and it's like you're on a treadmill
Nothing. Yeah,
and you're not moving forward, right? It's like, you know, Bugs
yeah.
Bunny or you know, the Tasmanian Devil when he used to wind up just in one spot
Yeah,
before you got going, right? Like it's like
yeah.
you're not going
You're
anywhere,
not
and it
going
gets
anywhere.
frustrating, right?
Yeah,
Like, and again, I often put it to, you know, you think about it, you have this one customer that keeps calling you for rates, and you give them 20, 30 rates, and you never get any business. Right. And you think about it from an ops perspective, that I've 20 times I've rated this person, never got any
yeah.
business. They go way down the list
Oh yeah,
on priority, right? So it's
absolutely.
like as a sales rep, I think it's our obligation to say, hey, whoa, time out. I quoted you 3 times.
Yeah.
I have
What's
zero
yeah? Where are we
feedback on
missing? Are
numbers.
we
We've
even
not got any
close? Are
business.
we in the same church? We like where are we?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
You know? So it's like, and that to me gets hammered out on the first call because you know your numbers. So if the carrier says I need 1,500, you decide to start at 1,900, you want to put $400 GP on it. That's
yeah,
your prerogative. As long as you give the carrier 15, if the customer comes back and says I'll do it for 15, don't go back to your supplier and say I need it for 14. You say,
yeah,
what do you need to get the job done?
yep,
This is the number you need to get the job done. If I could put $1,000 on it and still keep the business for long term, I could do that. But
yep,
at least you know. So you say $1,500, and the customer comes back and says, way too, or 1,900. Customer comes back and says, yeah, I'm getting it about 18. You know, right there,
yeah,
you're like, you know what? Here's the deal. I'll do it at 18 twice. I've got some margin on it. I'll do it at 18 twice. Um, if we like it,
yeah,
we can keep it there, but I need like all 3 loads a week or all 4 loads a week or
yeah.
whatever. And you can negotiate that on the spot because you know your bottom line,
Exactly.
right? Or
Yep,
you do a cost plus, right? Like we talked about that. That's I
exactly.
truly believe that's the next
I think we need to get in.
phase.
We'll have to do an episode on that as well. But
Yeah, let's
we,
do it. You know what we'll do is we'll get a hold of Joe Lynch because Joe Lynch and I have a great. We love talking about that. Maybe we'll bring Joe on and get Joe
yeah,
in.
that's a good idea.
Lead us out of here with a quote, brother, because I know we're
All
getting
right,
into the
guys. Well,
40
hey,
plus.
thank you guys, everybody, again for joining us. Again, if you're catching this after and you're catching it on YouTube, on Dan's channel, or I think they're actually saving on my channel now. So go with the flow
Perfect.
freight burger training on YouTube as well. They are actually going there. So you can like and subscribe on either channel, but please, thank you again for following us and good one to leave us out. So this is by Martin Luther King Jr. I figured it was fitting for today, and I think, man, it's such a powerful one. He has so many good quotes. Such a smart guy. You can tell by his quotes. But this quote is: "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that." Love
Awesome.
everybody, guys. Work
That's a good
together.
one.